Hey, hey, everybody. Man, does it feel good to be back. So, as usual, we are going to give it a minute or two. I already see little critter coming in here. She's tuning in live. Nice to see ya. I think this is your first live stream with me. I see Diane coming into the house. Hi, Diane. Thank you for stopping in. As usual, we're just going to give it a minute or so here, let it send out notifications, see if we could get a couple more people into the house, because you guys know that I normally don't go live on Saturday nights. So we're already kind of mixing things up. Yep, I know. I just didn't know if you were willing to have me share your name. So Ashley is in the house tonight. I appreciate it. Glad to see you live. Yeah, so normally I go live on Sundays, but tomorrow I have all of my residents moving back into the campus suites, and I don't know if I'm going to be available the full 7 to 8 o'clock. I might have to help a new resident, for example. I have a couple of those. So I figured, why not go live tonight? I know that Paula with Van Vita Travels, she normally goes live on Saturday nights too, but her and Nate with Land Cloud Adventures are taking a break for their wedding. Again, big congratulations to them. I am so excited and so happy for them. Saying happy to be here and hear about your travels. Yes, this is a good one, Ashley, because you were one of the people that were asking. We're just going to dive right in here. It's been a couple minutes. You were one of the people that were asking what exactly went wrong with my flights. Why did this trip ruin flying for me? No exaggeration. I went from loving flights. Now, obviously, here in the US as a nomad, I traveled out of my vehicle. And I love that. You get to take the scenic route and see and meet other people. But I didn't mind flying either. I had been on probably approximately 10 flights throughout the United States from places such as Florida, Vegas, and New York, to name a couple. Never had a problem with it until now. So let's see. How do I want to start this live stream off? I guess I will start off from the very beginning and walk the way through the process and what exactly went wrong. And we'll discuss moving forward what my plans are on posting content related to my European vacation. So starting out, I want to talk about passports. So bear with me, Diane, Ashley. I hope this isn't too boring, but it's a very, very important step to traveling internationally. And I have had several people ask me, how exactly do you get a passport? I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I did get scammed when I tried to get my passport because I was one of the people that didn't know better and didn't know what to do. So, starting off for any international trip, I'd even argue Mexico and Canada, you might as well just get your passport. Now, your passport is good for 10 years. I think it cost me somewhere around $100 to $200. I think it's easily worth the money because, again, it is good for 10 years. Now, what ended up happening, the reason I got scammed, was I simply Googled, and I will pull it up here. I could probably even show you guys exactly what I clicked on. Let's see. Let's give it a shot here. I'm going to show my screen anyway, just to show you guys, because I do not want this to happen to anybody else. So, starting off, let's go this way. Starting there, better. Starting off, I simply went to Google and I said, how to get a passport. I had no idea. No one I knew, as far as I know anyway, even today, no one I know has a passport. So I wasn't sure what exactly to do. And I might have clicked on something like, say, this website right here, application form. It was actually probably exactly like this. Now, this website to me looks already a little bit sketchy. The one originally, it looked legit. So I filled out the passport application online, which is also another thing. I not only got scammed out of my money, I put vital information. Like, for example, my social security number on this online application that I thought was legit. So I filled out my name, my date of birth, where I was born, emergency contacts, my mom, my father, when they were born, what their contact information is. I put my social security number down. And as soon as you get to the end of the application, you get something on the website saying, congratulations, you now have to print this off. Please pay us $125, which was about the price of a passport. So I ended up paying the money, and I never was able, by the time I found out it was a scam, went back to my bank to say, hey, I got scammed. Can we reverse the charge on my debit card? I wasn't able to do it. It was too late. So I'm out of 125 bucks. Live and learn. It is a lesson for me to share with you guys and hopefully prevent people from doing that again. And push come to shove, maybe I could put that down as a business expense. I don't know. I'm probably not going to try. But that was my thought originally when I finally found out. Like, it sucks, but okay, there's nothing I could do. Let's not cry over it. Basically, like, let's not cry over spilt milk. So, what exactly do you guys need to do to get a passport? Well, I recommend going to your local Walgreens. It is very quick and the easiest way to get your passport photos. Now, you can take photos at home, but it has to be an absolutely clear background. You can't smile at all. Your head needs to be tilted, like, so exactly. It's so very specific that I recommend simply going into a Walgreens and having your photo taken. Now, if you go to Walgreens, at least when I did it, it was $20 for two photos, one for your book and one for a card. You can't buy one photo, you have to get two. It's their only option. That is another thing, though. Okay, Colby, what is the difference between a passport book and a passport card? Do not quote me on this, but from my understanding, if you have a passport card, as excuse me, I'm still a little sick here, so my throat's a little rough. If you have a passport card as a US citizen, you can travel to Canada and Mexico. But you cannot use that to get anywhere else. Versus a book, which lets you travel everywhere. So that's another thing. I paid for the book and the card. I don't even know what happened to my card. I think I lost it. Maybe I never got it. Maybe that was part of the scam. Regardless, though, the card is pretty much useless. If you're going to be getting a passport, anything, just get the booklet. It will be a little bit more money, but again, it is good for 10 years and works everywhere. So, step one, Walgreens, go, pay the 20 bucks, get your photo taken. You're now good to go. Now, there's going to be a physical application like the one I was talking about. You should never, ever, 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 ever have to pay any money to fill out a passport application. Hey, Nancy, thank you for stopping in. Yes, so don't get this confused either. You have to pay to get the passport, obviously, but you like filling out a passport application, you will never, ever, ever, ever have to pay for that. And that is what I did not know. And that is how I got scammed when it came to getting my passport. So, if you are ever in that process and you fill out the application and something is saying, hey, you need to print it up or you need to pay to be able to print it off or anything along those lines, stop what you're doing. Giant red flag. It is a scam. Now, what you do, I'm sorry, guys. I am tired still. This jet lag has been brutal the past week. But what you do is you go to your local Secretary of State. You go to the Secretary of State. Hey, Scooby Snacks is coming in. Thank you. Not a problem for being late. We're talking about passports here. We're starting from the very beginning. So, quick rundown. Go to Walgreens, get your photos, never pay for anything online when it comes to getting an application for your passport. Those are two important steps. Step 3, you get a paper application, you fill it out, you go to your Secretary of State to submit your passport application to the state. At this point, and this is the only time, this is where you will pay for your passport. Now, another tricky thing though, you cannot pay in cash. You cannot pay with a debit or credit card. You need a cashed check, basically a check. You need a check written out to whatever state you are in, and you send that check in with your birth certificate. So if you don't have that, you need to get it. You send that in, the check with your original or whatever birth certificate and your application for your passport. So that is how you get a passport. Now you can pay extra to get it expedited, etc., etc. I'm not going to go deep into that stuff. That more or less is the basic system. And let me see here. I'm going to Google it again just to check before I give you guys wrong information, because it does change as well. But I was correct. Okay, so as of December 18th, 2023, passport applications will be processed in approximately 6 to 8 weeks for routine service. But if you pay the $60 additional, which I did, I didn't need to in the end. I didn't end up going anywhere sooner than I originally would have. If you pay the $60 additional, you could get your passport within 2 to 3 weeks. So I appreciate you guys taking a while and listening to me talk about that. I know it's not super exciting, but I had several people asking me, how do you get a passport? How do you start your international travels? And as you guys know, I want to share my lessons, especially a scam. So hopefully it prevents people. And I want to see you guys living your best lives as well. So that was very, very important to me to share. Now, why exactly was traveling overseas, specifically flying overseas, the worst experience of my life? I really hate to say that. I hesitated for a good day or two to say that. But if I am being completely true with myself, with everybody, flying from Chicago to Germany was the worst experience of my entire life. Here's why. Months ago, some of you might recall I was looking at upgrading my seats. Well, for business class, it would have cost $500 to upgrade. Now, back then, I think I even said it on a live stream. I can't imagine spending $500 on an overnight flight when you could be spending that money on going on other trips and other experiences, yada, 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 yada. That is what I said back then. Fast forward, here we are in Chicago. I kid you not, I got onto the plane, and as soon as I sat down, the guy next to me started laughing even. As soon as I sat down, I couldn't help but say, "Holy shit, I made a mistake." The seats were so bad immediately, out loud, I was like, I should have paid for business class. I should have paid for business class. And that's all I kept like I immediately upon sitting down, the plane was not even taking off yet. We were not in the air yet. And this is an 8.5, 9 hour flight. I sat down, and this airlines was United Airlines. So it's a pretty big one. And usually it's a pretty good one. But I sat down in this seat, and it was so uncomfortable. You felt like you were sitting on a pile of bricks. Now, I I I've been on flights before. I've been on flights where I have flown through Chicago. So, navigating was not that hard to me. And what I would actually do, even so, for example, flying into Chicago that day, I was flying from Minneapolis to Chicago. Well, I would open up Google Maps, and obviously I'm on a flight from Minneapolis, but you could treat it like a paper map. So what I would do is treat it like a paper map and zoom in on O'Hare Airport, and I would try to find my gate for the next flight. That navigating, not that hard. But I've been on flights before through Chicago, again to New York, to Florida, to Vegas. We're talking 2, 3 hour flights. So it's not like I'm not used to flying. I used to love it. Absolutely loved it. But here I was sitting down for the first time on this plane and immediately knowing I made a mistake. And I kid you not, half an hour into the flight, I'm going like this and going like this and trying to stretch. You felt like you were sitting on bricks. It was honestly painful. And now keep in mind, it is an overnight flight from Chicago, wrong way, from Chicago to Germany. So 8.5, 9 hours. And half an hour in, I am already tossing and turning in pain from sitting. The seats were just so uncomfortable. Because of that, I'm exhausted, but I cannot fall asleep for the life of me. So I start watching some movies. Now, that is another cool thing. These longer flights, for those who don't know, there are screens on the back of the seats. So you could watch movies, you can play some games, you could watch some TV shows even. Or there's a map and it shows where you are, what your current speed, altitude is, and how long it's going to take to get to your destination. I ended up watching a couple movies, but more or less leaned against. I had a window seat. I did pick that, thankfully. I leaned against the window and I just sat there for hours with my eyes closed, just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And It seemed like every 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half hour, I'd open my eyes, look at the clock. Oh, we still have 5.5 hours. There was literally for like from 5.5 hours all the way to the end of the flight. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to make it. I don't know how I'm going to make it. I can't do this again. I can never do this again. I can't go on a flight again. It was so painful and uncomfortable to me. Now, another reason why I hated this flight was on the way home, at least, you got to pick your meal. Do you want a vegetarian meal? Do you want a lactose free meal? Etc. You don't get to pick the details like I want a hamburger, but you got to pick lactose free, etc. etc. On the way there, you did not get this option. So I ended up getting a vegetable stir fry. Everyone did. And it was covered in soy sauce. I do not like soy sauce. I've tried it many, many times over several years of my life. I do not like soy sauce. But okay, beggars can't be choosers. I'm on an overnight flight. I've been running all day. I've barely ate. I'm exhausted. I'm starving. So I start eating it. The food was cold. Literally, I ate half of the food and it was cold. Like, it was just such a horrible experience, you guys. It was absolutely horrible. Now, what I can say in a good sense is I do recommend the window seat. At one point, we were arguing window or aisle. Obviously, no one wants to sit in the middle. Window or aisle. And a lot of people were saying aisle because you could stretch your legs and this and that. Like, okay, aisle if you're going to have to go up and use the bathroom. Now, me, even though I was awake the entire flight, I just made sure to drink very little and I was dehydrated, which that causes problems later on by itself because you're jet lagged and all of that. And I know it's not good for you, but then you don't have to get up and squeeze through the middle and the aisle seat to go use the restroom. The reason I say the window is, again, because you could lean against the window, well, not the window, but the wall, and use that to try to fall asleep as a cushion. Now, when you get on these flights, they give you, at least these overnight flights, they give you a blanket, they give you a pillow, and mine gave you earplugs too for the TVs on the back of the chairs. So what I did is I actually used the pillows to sit on, and I took the blanket and I folded it up, and I used that as the cushion between my head and the wall. And that was very, like, at least that part was very comfortable. So on the way back, when I had better cushioned seats, I was able to fall asleep here and there a little bit. Now, but Kobe, I want to stretch my legs. That's why I want the aisle seat. I recommend for your personal item, bringing a backpack. And I've never had problems with this. I've probably been on 20 different flights now at this point. What I do is when I finally need to stretch my legs a little bit, I will move the backpack and stand it up directly against the wall. And I put my legs underneath the seat in front of me, making sure I don't go too far to kick like the person's feet and stuff in front of me, obviously. And then I just kind of lift myself up like that a little bit. Just kind of lift myself up, stretch my legs. Okay, get back down, toss, turn. There we go, stretch. And I'll just keep my legs like that for maybe an hour or two and really go from bending them that entire flight to now having them completely straight for an hour or two. That really helps. So yes, I think it was Williams. He's not here with us tonight right now, but I think he said that you get pillows and stuff. That is true. Both overnight flights, both international flights I was on, you got a blanket and a pillow. Another reason why my flights were so bad. Leaving Switzerland, the tour group dropped us off 2 hours early, 2 hours prior to our flight. Now, that's pretty reasonable. That's kind of what they recommend, 2 to 3 hours. It turned into a mess. The website wouldn't let me check in. The app wouldn't let me check in. And I was the only person that had this problem. Now, I was alone, but we still had the group chat. So I was talking to people and kind of panicking. And I was the only one having this problem. There were a couple people that were with me at the beginning when we first got to the airport, and they tried to help me, but they couldn't figure it out either. So I split up, I'm on my own, and I have to go sit in a giant ass line. Giant line. It took me an hour just to get to the desk to get my booking pass. Now, at that point, for those of you who have flown before, you know that there is security. So, excuse me, give me a minute here. Oh, this cold. I'm almost 100%, you guys, but it's still just a little bit. Anyway, you guys know that there's security. After you get your boarding pass, you have to go through security. What do I recommend for this? Well, what I did, regardless of, hey, you don't have to take your shoes off or blah, 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 blah. I take my shoes off every single time. I take my belt off every single time. I take my glasses off because I could see without them. I take my glasses off every single time. My necklace, if I know I'm going to go through an airport that day, I don't have the necklace on me. I have it packed up in my suitcase or my backpack. I don't have it on me. So that way, basically, when you get there, you rip your jacket off, put it in a thing, move it down the line, take your phone, wallet out of your pockets, your passport, your boarding pass, throw it in another bin, send it down, shoes, boom, another bin, glasses, same bin, walk through, good to go. Excuse me. I did have to get patted down a couple times. In these pat downs, they did have to ask me if I wanted to go to a private room because it was in the groin area every single time. Every single time I go through a machine, pretty much, I always get flagged. I was asking some people because I know a buddy that works for the TSA at our local airport. He wasn't working the day I left, but I asked some of the other people there, like, why? Why does that always happen? They told me what it is I am so skinny that the jeans are like bigger, like 4 freaking sizes bigger than I am. So what happens is as soon as you take the belt off, they get baggy. So I can hold my jeans, and that makes it so it's not baggy anymore. But you're not allowed to do that. When you walk through the machine, if it's one of the ones that spins, you have to go in and put your hands up like this. So every single time I walk through, I put my hands up like this. My pants start to sag and get a little baggy because I'm not wearing a belt. And then because it was baggy, the machine flagged it, and now I gotta get pat down. I'm not even anxious about security anymore. Every single time they were like, "Oh, we got a pat," I'm like, "Just do it here." And a couple of them would laugh, and I'm like, it happens every single time. The pants are baggy and blah, blah. And they just laugh. I'm like, just do it here. I'm used to it at this point. I don't care. I don't need a private room. It's just part of the process. So, bad food, uncomfortable seats, security, long lines. What you need to do on an international trip is once you get through your boarding pass and get through security, you need to go through customs. Oh my God, can that become a problem? Now, I thankfully didn't have it as bad as I've heard other people get it on occasion. But basically, once you make it through your boarding and your security, you have another spot where it's going to be giant lines. So you're sitting and waiting again. So if you're like me and you're wearing a heavy hoodie as well as a leather jacket, you're going to be sweating a lot because it's hot and you're just sitting in place for 30 minutes. But basically, when you finally get up to the person, you have to give them your passport. They'll look through it and they're going to ask you basic questions. Why are you traveling here, etc., etc. For those who follow Nate with Land Cloud Adventures, you've kind of heard how he's had some problems with that, even crossing over by vehicle into Canada. Just part of the process. You have to go through customs. Now, at this point, if you go through and everything's good, that's when you're going to get your stamp. Your stamp will tell you what country you're in and what day it is. Since Europe is pretty free border, like travel wise, you don't have to stop every single time you cross over into a country. There's going to be places for that, obviously, but for the most part, they're just going to wave you through. You're not going to get a stamp. For example, I went through 6 different states on this trip, one of them being Canada. I only got 2 stamps on my passport. It's just because they're super friendly and they all kind of work together. So you have to go through customs and they can be a pain. This did not happen to me, but I've been told that they will play a game of 50 questions with you. They can really be assholes. Coming into the US, it is a lot worse, I have been told. I didn't experience it, strangely enough. Coming from Canada and landing into the US, there was never a customs. And I was very, 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 very confused by that because from what I've heard and experienced and been told, there should have been a customs. When I landed from the Canada flight in the US, there should have been a spot where I went through customs. But I don't know. There's an app that I got. I'm going to recommend to you guys, even though I did not use it personally. Let me just pull it up on my phone here so you guys can see what the icon looks like, and hopefully the camera will adjust, because this is supposed to help you get through the airport customs quicker in specifically the US. Excuse me. If it adjusts. But you guys can basically get the idea. It's a white square MPC, and it's called Mobile Passport Control. Now, what you do is you scan your passport, or you manually enter all of the data into it. And when you land in the US, when you're going through US, there's a spot where it says check in. You pick you or whatever travel. If you have a family of you, you could save several people and several passports on there. You pick who's going through, And then there's supposed to be a line specifically set aside for people who use this app, which is why it is a big deal. Because instead of staying in line for half an hour to an hour, you'll be gone in 5 to 10 minutes. If 10 minutes, probably 5, closer than anything. So I got that. Didn't need to use it, but customs wasn't really a problem outside of the fact that on the way back, leaving Switzerland, it was not enough time. I was going through customs and they were boarding the plane already. And the plane was overbooked. So that's really scary to me because the fact that they're boarding the plane now and I'm still stuck in customs means I'm not going to get there for a while. And it's basically kind of first come, first serve. And if I don't make it, I just have to wait for the next flight, which means the hotel that's already booked in Minneapolis is now screwed up. The flight back to Ironwood, which I booked on my own time, is now screwed up. And picking Rocky up from the boarding shelter is now screwed up. All because of possibly missing a flight in Switzerland because they overbooked it. And I was running late because of customs and boarding and all of that stuff. Oh my god. So, lots and lots of fun. I recommend getting there even earlier. Just, it makes it so much easier, especially when you don't read the native language. Now, thankfully, a lot of where I traveled, there was signs in English, or they would have the word in German or Italian or whatever, and then they'd have English underneath it. It was easy enough to navigate. The gates are kind of the same. Hey, you have to go to B25, E16, etc., etc. Like, easy enough to navigate, but it's a whole nother level of nerve-wracking. Let's see, what else? Okay, our layovers. So you guys heard me talk prior to the trip. I was like, oh, I have an hour and a half layover here, here, and here. That's perfect. Just enough time to find the gate and not have to worry about it and blah, 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 blah. I kid you not, you guys. Every single time I got off of one flight, not even, correction, every single time I landed, this is what I would do. Oh, shit. And then I'd be pulling up Google Maps. Okay, where's the gate? Okay, it's on the opposite side of the airport. And then I'd sit there. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Okay, time to get off the flight. And I would get off the flight and I would literally run through every single airport, including the O'Hare Airport, and make it to the next gate just in time to be boarded. So, hour and a half layovers on international flights, not enough time. Oh my god, you guys, it's been over a week in this European cold. It's just, it's not like it disables me at all. It's not like I'm stuck in bed type of deal, but it's annoying. This slight cough, this runny nose, just so bad. I would have vomited from being so anxious. Let me tell you, there was at one point the flight from Chicago to Germany, Mr. Discomfort is the key to your best life. I was on that flight and I said, discomfort is overrated. I was so sick of it and so over it. It was anything but fun. It was so anxious. It was stressful. It was horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible. To the point that genuinely, I never, ever, 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 I'm not exaggerating, I never want to fly again. Now, I will, but I hate that fact. My Kenya trip, I just looked up the details to what the typical flights take to get from Minneapolis to Kenya. They're almost double what I was just on average. I am not looking forward to that at all. I absolutely hate flying now. Hate, hate, hate doing it. But I will say, once you got there, everything was kind of smooth sailing. The tour group was like bringing us from country to country in a bus. There was a spot, and I'll talk about this in one of my upcoming videos, but I was completely alone for basically a day, for an entire day, more or less. And my cell phone didn't work. So I didn't have a cell phone, didn't have internet, and I was completely alone in a country where I did not speak the language and there was not a lot of English. And I was navigating all over the city by myself at night. Now, there is one spot, and you guys will see it in a video coming up, where I'm like, yep, this is where I get murdered. This is that part of the trip. Because you guys know there's always at least one of those moments with me when I go anywhere. I get to a place that I probably shouldn't be in, and it's super sketchy, and I always go, yep, I'm getting murdered. This is it. That was one of those days. But the transit systems there, you guys, are absolutely phenomenal. If you ever look up a map of the transit systems, I know it looks like, actually, let me even better. I will show you guys the map to the exact map that I had to use in the country that I'm talking about right now. Okay, come on. Oh, that's so tiny. I wanted it bigger. You guys will get the gist of this. You won't be able to see the text, but you'll get the gist of it. Did you feel like James Bond? Well, without going into too much spoiler, let's just say like I was actually just saying, you guys know that on every trip I go on, there's always at least one spot where I go, yep, this is where I could get murdered. This is it. Like, this is, yep, I could see that happening. Very, very sketchy. Normally, when I get into these situations, I always say, because I even got into the situation with my aunt at one point, I said, stay calm, act like you belong here. Keep moving, keep an eye on your surroundings, keep moving, and act like you belong here. Because if you stop, if you're constantly like looking around and wondering, like, okay, blah, 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 you're going to look like a tourist. You're going to look like a target, etc. So act like you belong there. Act like you know what you're doing. I ended up getting to a spot that was even more sketchy that I did not film because I was scared for my safety. I literally stopped everything I was doing, put my phone in my pocket, and I just ran. I ran and ran and ran, just straight ahead, nonstop. Ran and ran and ran and ran until I got to where I was going. And even then, I ran through the gates of where I was going and ran and ran and ran until I got to streetlights and vehicles and where other people were nearby. So I don't think I've ever had it that bad. Ugh. I hope my coughing is not too bad for you guys. I'm trying not to cough into the microphone, but I feel like every single time I do it, I am. Okay, so we are going to show you guys the screen again. Here is the map of the city I was telling you guys that I navigated by myself. So you guys can't see the text, but even if you could, it doesn't matter because it's not in English anyway. None of it is at all. So, what I needed to do basically is our hostel was somewhere in this area, and every single color is a different bus, different transit system. So our hostel was somewhere in this area. I had to come all the way down here to the middle of the city, like downtown basically. And then I had to go all the way over here. No speaking English, no cell phone, no internet, and I had to navigate this. But it was very, very easy to do, and I'll go into that in a different video one day. What I'll say for now is that the systems, like the bus shuttles, they're similar to the shuttles we have here in Las Vegas. So you get on them, you sit down, and you see where your next stop is, usually. And then before you get to that stop, you press the stop button, and the driver knows to stop at that next spot. Same thing, same exact thing. So similar, yet different. Um, so yeah, lots of do's and don'ts of traveling internationally here for you guys. Learn from my mistakes, learn from my experiences, because wow, again, that Chicago to Europe flight, never again. I hope I never have an experience that bad ever again. I see we're coming up here on 50 minutes already, though. So I'm only going to do an hour live stream tonight. I still have to eat. Rocky seems to be doing something, and he's got my curiosity right now. What are you eating over there? Oh, are you chewing on your bone? Okay, I'll allow it. Good boy. Chew on your bone. Sounded like plastic, you guys. I was like, what the hell is he getting into? So here's what I'll do. The last 10 minutes here. Basically just talk about moving forward here. My plans right now is to post twice a week. And what do I mean when I do this and say post? Well, maybe it means a live stream and a video, or maybe it means 2 videos. One way or another, though, I'm meaning video. Like, maybe it's a 10-minute, 15-minute, 20-minute, maybe. I don't even know. It depends on how I feel with the stories I want to tell. Or it might be a live stream, like this one. I felt instead of trying to make a 10-minute, 15-minute, like, couple different videos, it was easier to just do a live stream and talk about several different topics. But all kind of within the same thing. The other thing, before we get into what I'm going to be doing, another thing to know about traveling internationally, because I had people ask me about this, what do you do for money? I ended up withdrawing $200 US dollars from an ATM in Minneapolis. I basically didn't end up using it. I got to Italy, and I was able to pay the tour director in US dollars for some of the upcoming extra activities that we added on. But outside of that, US dollars was absolutely useless. But once you get there, there's a bunch of ATMs just like here, And that is how you could get euro, for example. Now, when you go to these ATMs, however, they're going to ask you if you want a conversion. Always say no. Always, always, always say no if it allows you to. Sometimes I would click no and it would cancel the transaction altogether. But if you have the option, always pick no, because what happens is if you pick yes, you're basically getting ATM fees and conversion fees. Basically, you're going to end up paying more in fees than you typically would for a normal conversion anyway from US dollar to euro. So that is how I dealt with the money there. Outside of that, many of us, including myself, you could use your cards. My debit card, my credit card, all of that stuff. But as Nancy's saying too, they charge for conversion. So that's another thing. Whether it's ATM or cards, they typically will charge for a conversion. Outside of that, there may be some fees. For example, my Arizona debit card, any international transaction, there is a 3% fee on. Not horrible, but some of them are a lot worse. And if you don't know that, it adds up quick, because like the conversions, the charges, and then $90 is 100 US, or 90 euro is 100 US dollars, stuff like that. So for me, I had to keep a certain balance on this Arizona debit card, and I kept just above that balance by a little bit. So you need to check your cards. You don't want to accidentally withdraw too much. You don't want to come back and all of a sudden you're getting charged an insanely high amount. So that is another thing to keep in mind, and that is how I dealt with getting money and making purchases internationally. So with all of that being said, I think that's all my advice on traveling traveling overseas, traveling internationally, at least based off of this trip. I went to Europe. I don't know if Asia, Africa, South America, etc. It might be different. But based off of my experiences so far with Canada and Europe, this is the advice I have for you guys. But yes, 2 videos every week. Most likely, I won't be doing live streams. So what I'm thinking right now is posting videos every Sunday, not tomorrow. I'm learning. I'll talk about this in a little bit. Not tomorrow, but every Sunday and every Wednesday, since Nate with Land Cloud Adventures is not going to be going live on Wednesdays. I want to take advantage of that. And I have so much stuff I'm excited to share with you guys that I think it's really perfect timing, if I'm being honest. So we have 2 videos every week. I don't know how many videos I'm going to make. Honestly, at one point I sat down and I could probably make 12 to 13 videos based off of this Europe vacation without it being overkill at all. So I'm really excited. There's so much to see, so much to talk about, so much to share with you guys. I'm sorry if I seem distracted right now. I'm just pulling something else up here. But yeah, we are going to have an amazing, at least I'm saying 2 months. The next 2 months are going to be absolutely remarkable. I hope you guys are going to see some of the best content that I have ever created. Not only because of how amazing some of the content, experiences were this trip, best experience of my entire life. Which is funny because I was saying the flight to Europe was the worst experience of my life, but this trip in Europe was the best experiences I've ever had in my entire life, no doubt about it. I can't wait to share that with you guys. But as you guys know, I was having some editing software problems. So I am finally saying enough's enough. My software expires in about a month anyway. I am switching over. Adobe actually has a discount for faculty, staff, teachers, and students of college. Now, I'm a student right now, so I'm using that card. But when it expires, since I graduate in May, woo, I am going to try to use it as a faculty slash staff. Now it costs a lot more money, but as a result, I get access to Photoshop, video editing software. There is like 20 different apps through Adobe that I get access to. So there's going to be a learning curve. There's going to be some adjustments. I'm playing around with it already because it is nowhere near Power Director. It is not that simple. It is very more logistical. But in the long run, I think the quality of my photos, merchandise, videos, all of it is going to take a significant step up. I truly believe that Power Director has been honestly holding me back for quite some time now. So I cannot wait to take this step forward with you guys and continue to grow as a content creator. Now, what I want to pull up here before I end this live stream tonight is my YouTube logistics. Let me share my screen again with you guys. So, I want to take a moment. Anyone who has been watching my live stream playlist, thank you, thank you, thank you. Because we have almost doubled our watch hours in a single month. Last month at this time, we had about 700 public watch hours. So not quite double, but a pretty big chunk difference in just a month's time. And as you guys can see, once I hit 3,000 hours, I am able to apply and become monetized. So that is going to be really, 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 really huge for me. And this year, that is my goal for YouTube. I'm going to become monetized. That is my goal. It's not even, I want to say it's not even a goal. It is going to happen this year. I am determined to make it happen. So, if you are willing to help me, for those who are not already doing it, let me pull the screen back up now. I have a playlist called Live Streams. If you go here and click View All, there is 63 videos, and I think it might have literally every single live stream I have ever done in the history of this channel. So we're talking about probably a good 24, like 30 to 40 hours worth of content all in this one playlist. So all you have to do is press play all and just let it run in the background. A lot of us, myself included, will put it on at night. And the key is you cannot mute it. It has to be just a little volume. So if you have some headphones, for example, I know my aunt does that. She'll plug the headphones in, and that way you can't hear it outside of that. But basically just plug it in, let it run, and those hours add up. But here is a catch, unfortunately, for anyone who does and is willing to do that, it is going to help me significantly. So, I cannot thank you enough. There is one catch. Obviously, if you kept doing it nonstop over and over and over again, YouTube is going to flag it. Nancy, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I really, really appreciate that. So, what I've learned, and this is also coming from Nate with Land Cloud Adventures, what I've learned is YouTube will eventually flag it. So, the key is to run it for maybe, I run it 8 hours a day basically on different devices. My PC, my laptop, my PlayStation. I'll run it 8 hours a day. My aunt, she will run it overnight, and she does it for about 15 hours every night. So I've done it where I run it 24 hours, literally 24 hours straight. And then eventually it starts like creating issues. You start getting flagged for it. But that's kind of the gist. Like, play around with it. You don't even need to do 15, 8 hours. If you're willing to do an hour, 2 hours here and there, it's going to add up. But right now, with enough of us like doing this, I can hit 3,000 hours in no time. So it really, really will be a game changer, not only to this YouTube channel, but to my life. I know that's crazy to say, but like I will be able to put my clothing, my book, all of that right on the YouTube channel so you guys don't have to try to go to a different website. Heck, I probably wouldn't even need to have a separate website. I probably wouldn't have to pay $500 to have a website anymore. So it will be a game changer for me, and I'm determined to get it this year. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you to anyone who has been doing it. Nancy, anyone else who does do it moving forward. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I will keep you guys updated. And with that, I am going to end the live stream. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found some important information that might be useful to you in the future. And just please, 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 please stay tuned, because these next 2 months, I quite honestly think will be some of the best, if not the best content I have ever posted. And I just cannot stress that enough. I am so excited to share it all with you guys. So until the next time, take care, and I'll see you all on the next adventure.